An FBI agent just got sentenced to 3 years for her own classified documents problem. And a lot of people on the left are saying, wow, if she got 3 years, that means Donald Trump should get 3 years or more, forgetting the fact that she was never the president and Donald Trump was, and a whole slew of other compare and contrast failures that they're making. But it is a curious case. An FBI agent was in possession of these documents for a very long time, and the case is quite shocking. It shows you how ridiculous these classified documents cases are, because they raided Trump's residence in order to get these back, whereas one of their agents apparently was doing something with these materials for a very long time. Now, this press release comes out from the Department of Justice. They say a former analyst with the FBI has been sentenced for retaining classified documents. Former analyst, federal court. Her name is Kendra Kingsbury, and she was sentenced to 3 years and 10 months in federal prison without parole. Pleaded guilty October 13th, 2 counts, unlawfully retaining documents related to national defense. And people are pointing out Trump's indictment, and they're saying, oh yeah, he's got some pretty similar charges here. And when we hear people say there's no way Trump is going to serve prison on this thing, this is where I start to get a little bit squirrely on this. I think that if you get this in a DC case, a DC judge, or even in Florida, the government's going to want some jail time. Now, what that actually looks like for a former president is a different story. But Kingsbury was an intelligence analyst for the FBI for more than 12 years. She was assigned a sequence of different FBI squads, different focuses, drugs, violent gangs, and Kingsbury had a top secret SCI security clearance. Oh my gosh. Somebody better call Jar Scarborough over there. Somebody better ring Jake Tapper. Are they going to melt down over this? Is this going to be a Chiron on their screen? Kingsbury had access to the most top secret, our nation's most sensitive. Here, security clearance, and had access to national defense and classified information. Oh no. Training presentations and materials specifically warned Kingsbury she was prohibited for retaining these classified materials at her personal residence. Could only be stored in approved facilities. But she admitted that over the course of her FBI employment, she repeatedly removed from the FBI these documents and retained them at her personal residence. An abundance of government materials, including documents related to national defense. Over the course of her employment, she took them. And over the course of her employment was 12 years. In total, Kingsbury improperly removed and unlawfully and willfully retained approximately 386 classified documents in her personal residence. Some of the classified documents she unlawfully removed contained extremely sensitive national defense information. According to documents, Kingsbury put national security at risk by retaining this classified information. It could reveal some of the government's most important and secretive methods of collecting intelligence. And she admitted to investigators that she had retained and destroyed other documents over the years that could have contained this info. Destroyed it, like Hillary did. This document retained the documents retained by Kingsbury in her personal residence, stored on hard drives, compact discs, and other storage media. The national defense information that she unlawfully retained, classified at the secret level. These documents included FBI's nationwide objectives and priorities, investigations in multiple field offices. She retained documents about human source operations, intelligence gaps about hostile foreign intelligence services, capabilities of counterintelligence. They described intelligence everything, all right? Documents included Al-Qaeda, African, Osama bin Laden, regarding activities emerging from terrorists, and so on. The FBI, now this is where it's curious, the FBI investigated what uses Kingsbury put to the classified documents that she illegally removed. But the investigation revealed more questions and concerns than answers. Investigators reviewed Kingsbury's telephone records, revealed a number of suspicious phone calls. She contacted phone numbers associated with subjects of counterterrorism investigations. Subjects of the counterterrorism investigations. And these individuals also made phone calls back to her. Investigators have not been able to determine why Kingsbury contacted these people or why these individuals contacted her. Case was prosecuted by DOJ. Now, what's problematic about this is they're saying that they may never know what she was doing with this stuff. Nearly 4 years in prison, 386 classified documents. She said she was guilty of being too honest. Now, the New York Times says Trump is facing 31 counts of similar charges. Mr. Kingsbury, like Mr. Trump, was accused of not being helpful. Oh, and not being forthcoming. Her lawyers attributed her behavior to underlying events, several deaths in the family, causing her mental struggles. They wanted probation for her, but no. They said she took this extremely troubling documents. And before he sentenced her, Judge Stephen Bowe of Federal District Court agreed with prosecutors that, quote, "We will never ever know what took place." Doesn't sound good. And so there was one final sentencing memo that came out from the government when they asked for their penalty. This is a sentencing memorandum for the FBI agent. They give us some brief procedural history. They say that she's got 2 counts, willful retention of national defense information. The standard guidelines are 46 to 57 months in prison. But these facts are to supplement what the pre-sentence report has already found. They tell us that repeatedly over the course of her employment over 12 and a half years, she removed to her personal residence sensitive documents, willfully removed them, and retained them despite having receiving training over and over again not to do this. She completed 1,640 hours of training about how to handle this stuff, signed multiple employment agreement forms, outlined her obligations and rules about what to do with it. In total, she improperly removed 386 classified documents. The FBI ultimately determined that over 20,000 documents that originated either at the FBI or some other agency were found in her home. Some of the documents were extremely sensitive. They were on hard drives, compact discs. The FBI was able to determine that she had initiated searches in classified databases utilizing the information that she discovered, right? So it's not like she just grabbed mementos after meetings and brought them home. She went into databases and was specifically searching for certain things. They then removed them. As further explained in 3 documents, the defendant put national security at risk by claiming these things and putting them in her home. Some of the most important and secretive methods of collecting national security intelligence. So the FBI investigated this. They wanted to know what uses she put these documents to, but the investigation revealed more questions and more concerns. We conducted a review of her telephone records. She maintained a home. This phone number was active for a period of time. Many phone calls came in. One call belonged to the defendant and other known callers. A review of the calls show the following. In April 2016, she made a call from her cell to the person who was a counterterrorism subject. 5 calls then were made back. She received 2 calls from another person who was the subject of another investigation. So is she tipping these people off? All these calls were 2 minutes in duration. Another phone number was associated with another person, a part of a counterterrorism investigation, got 6 calls. She called another person, 20 seconds, 2018. 2008, her home phone was called by a phone number from a counterterrorism suspect, 42 seconds. Crazy story. So for years, she's like tipping all these terrorists off, I guess. Beginning in 2016, ending 2017, a cell phone number belonging to the subject of a counterterrorism investigation called. Another phone number from a different FBI division investigation. And now investigators have not been able to determine why she contacted these people or why they called her. When confronted, she denied having the home phone number. I don't know who that number is. Denied making and receiving these calls. No explanation as to why. Through the collected toll records, they were able to identify other calls dating back to 2000, including one call that lasted over 38 minutes. Multiple interviews, 4 different email accounts, but she indicated she deleted the contents of one of the emails, denied destroying any evidence, but did admit she periodically destroyed documents that she had taken. Around Labor Day, she said she deleted something that was top secret. Like what, with a cloth? The defendant claimed she destroyed the document by ripping it up, soaking it in water, and putting it down a drain. Oh, yeah, well, should have called Hillary. That's a good tactic. Could use a hammer, too, on your State Department devices. The defendant told Feeks that she decided to self-report the documents in her home because she felt like she was being followed and under surveillance. She referenced an event that occurred between her daughter and someone at Disneyland that made her destroy a previously owned laptop. Weird. The defendant's daughter, according to the defendant, met a Russian man at Disneyland and they exchanged Facebook information. After they exchanged, the laptop her daughter took to California became wonky. The defendant destroyed the laptop with a hammer. Exactly like Hillary's people. The second interview of the defendant, which was also the last interview of the defendant denied conducting unauthorized searches, but did say she attempted to help a family member by conducting searches. Also searched to help law enforcement. Denied conducting anything unauthorized or outside her scope of work. But this is all contradicted by the actual evidence. After the indictment was returned, the government offered the defendant opportunities to explain her actions. To mitigate this, she declined to provide them any information. So they say, they go through the factors. They're like, look, sentence her a lot. 386 documents in her home. The nature of the documents did not correlate to her work at the FBI. The phone records show she was talking with counterterrorism suspects. She's got no prior criminal history. She was employed at law enforcement. She knew what she was doing and intentionally violated the rules. She disclosed to save herself. She told us about this, so they didn't even catch her. Her partial disclosure occurred out of a sense of self-preservation. The event that caused her to disclose her illegal activity was the concern that she was being followed and surveilled. All right. So the FBI didn't even catch her. She says, I'm freaked out. The Russians are coming after me. So she told the FBI. That's how good our classified document management system is. 10 years. She's whatever she wants with the documents. The defendant exposed the FBI and other government agencies and could have had terrible consequences. Probably will. I mean, I imagine all of this stuff is in somebody else's hands. Like, do they think it's just on her? Do they think it didn't get out or something? Like, wow, we got lucky. No, obviously it's all out. I would imagine every single thing that she had in her possession is out. The defendant knew that unauthorized removal of these materials could endanger national security, and there is no way to know that the defendant retained information was discovered by someone, shared someone, or used. They don't know. Any sentence should take into account the severity of that penalty, and it should be used to deter people from committing this offense again. Extremely reckless disregard, and so we want 57 months and 3 years of supervised release. But a wild story from Patrick Edwards. So apparently the FBI just leaks like a sieve. I mean, who knows? If this is just one agent, you got to imagine what else is going on over there. So FBI agent sentenced to 3 years for classified documents that she was presumably just handing out like Skittles at Disneyland vacations.